Today, I'm sitting down with nutritionist Kim Shapira, and she's on a mission to change the way we think about food and health. If you're an emotional eater, this podcast is for you. She gave such great, tangible strategies for us to take and implement today, and it's going to change your relationship with food. So often at Move Daily Fitness, we talk about how to lose body fat, right? We're talking about how to lose weight. And so we talk about things like what types of foods we should eat. We look at macronutrients, micronutrients. We want to prioritize protein or fiber and really, eat the rainbow, so to speak. So we're talking a lot about food itself. And yet, what I find is if we don't pay attention to our relationship to food and the why behind, engaging with food, sometimes we can have a so-called diet in front of us, but you can't stick with it because the root cause has really never been addressed. It's never really been looked at. And so, Kim, thanks for joining me on the podcast today. I want to start by asking you, like, I know this is your wheelhouse. This is everything I just said is probably exactly what you are dialed into. But I want to start by introducing you to our audience by letting us know what exactly are you on a mission to do with food and our relationship with food?
I'm actually on a mission to help connect people back to themselves.
Hmm.
That's what I really am on a mission to do.
Yeah. So tell us, what does that look like?
Yeah, like we sensationalize the food, right? We think it's about the food. And like for instance, if somebody is overeating, it's really they just don't have control over all the things that are happening in their life, or they need more of whatever's happening. And if somebody isn't eating enough of something, it's really they just don't feel like they have enough or the power. And so this is why we overeat or undereat and we sensationalize that food is like the product of the or what is going to actually make us feel better. And we don't look at food as if we're in a relationship with it or it's our partner. And we really hopefully wouldn't stay in relationships where we're being abused or hurt. And so I think, I've been doing this for 28 years, and what I originally found was put people on diets because when you look at the macros and the micros of all the nutrients, we can eradicate disease. We can get people's metabolism regulated and we're good to go. We've solved all the health problems. And that's just not the case,
Mm-hmm.
like you
Yeah,
said.
it does. It does go a lot deeper. Did it go a lot deeper for you? Like, why did you get into this field in the first place?
Yeah. Um, well, I'm 52, and when I was 12, I got sick and I ended up in the hospital multiple times and had multiple surgeries. And there was one of the moments when I was driving to UCLA where I was crying in the car, and my mom said to me, "Don't cry, we'll go shopping after your doctor appointment." And I was like,
Mhm. Don't
I
feel,
I
don't feel.
grabbed that. I'm like, yes, what am I going to buy at Bullock's? So exciting. And I was so shy and in so much pain that it gave me like such a wonderful place to put my mind. And somewhere in high school, a doctor mentor of mine said to me, food can make a person sick or healthy. And my story was I was sick. So I was like, oh my God, really? If that's the case, then I'm going to learn about food and I'm going to be healthy. And not only that, I'm going to help people get healthy because isn't that what every single person wants?
Mm.
And so I kind of followed that thread. I went to Tulane, I went to BU, and I studied nutrition and clinical nutrition. And then I immediately opened a private practice. I was 27, and my first client was a therapist. I feel like she was in her 50s, and she was so much smarter than me. And I put her on a diet, and she lost 30 pounds. So essentially, I did exactly what I sought out to do, and we got her off her blood pressure medication, her cholesterol medication, and her blood sugars went back to normal. And then she said to me in one of our follow-ups, I'm going to gain the weight back.
Mm.
And I said, why in the world would you do that? Like we just got you here. Like we just got you healthy. We increased your health span. And she said, well, my husband wants to be intimate with me all the time. And I thought, well, that's a nice thing. That's good. I'm
Uh-huh.
27, 27. And she said, I was molested as a child. And that was like the moment where I was like, I don't understand. people or the people that are living inside of their bodies. And this is not about kale and the nutrients inside of kale. And so then I started really recognizing patterns and that my clients were eating in the same way that I was shopping. And so that was the turning point for me where I stopped putting people on diets and really stopped talking about food in the first couple weeks or months of our sessions. And I started trying things like putting things on hold and walking away and sitting in the discomfort. I started understanding spiritual psychology and quantum physics and neuroscience and really sitting in the stillness with myself. And then I started using that language with my clients and applying it to the hunger and satiety hormone. What happens if we eat when we're hungry? What happens if we buy something when we really need it? What happens if we put it on hold when we're, and let our body see if we're satisfied, right? What if we work on the space between the thought to eat and the action to eat? And so that's where I spent pretty much all of the last like 27 years and helping people reconnect to where their mind is and why their mind leaves their body and thinks about food or shopping or sex or alcohol or other things.
One of the things that stands out of what you just said about your childhood there is that when your mom said, "We'll go shopping, don't cry." It's yes, in essence, she's saying, don't feel the feelings that you have. And I think that's a common, we hear that a lot.
Yes.
I have uttered those words even to maybe my sister or someone like, don't cry. It's okay, don't cry. But really what we should be saying is let all of that out. Let all of that out.
Yeah.
I follow a lot of Gabor Mate's work and a psychotherapist up here in Vancouver, Canada. And he says, when we hold it in, our body speaks those emotions and it comes out somehow. And I mean, it's very common for us to want to just hold on to those things because it is uncomfortable to move through that. So let's talk about that a little bit more. I'd love to hear a little bit more about the language, putting maybe food on hold, but let's first explore the uncomfortable parts of our lives and why it's so important to sit in that discomfort.
Yeah. So our rational mindset knows that food is fuel. Like we have 37 trillion cells that need to be fed every single day. We need regulated blood sugar to manage our life, right? But every single one of us in the first 6 years of our life develop these emotional triggers. And I feel like we have these emotional bodies and these physical bodies, and we need to learn to separate the two. And when we go through something traumatizing in our life, like what I did when I was 12, you could even say 9/11, you could even say COVID. I mean, every single one of us experienced that in a different way, and our stories played out differently, and our emotional triggers do not look the same. But each one of us has that. And so the second we get emotionally triggered, our body responds in under 10 seconds, firing off the hippocampus, which is the memory center, which says, Kim, the last time you felt like this, you thought you needed to go to Bloomingdale's. Or for some people, then thinking chocolate's a good idea, right? Or just go home, sit in front of the TV and eat. This is better than what feels good in your body. So that happens in under 10 seconds. Tips off the hippocampus and the pituitary. Now we're dealing with hormone dysregulation and then the adrenal glands. So now we're dealing with cortisol spikes, insulin changes, and sex hormone changes, all in under 10 seconds. And it
Yeah.
fires off 1,400 different sensations simultaneously. And so it really is important for you to recognize stress, and any kind of stress comes in three different ways. One, I'm really fearful of the person walking toward me. Or two, I'm in physical pain, meaning my back hurts, or I have a sprained ankle, or I'm really, really full, or I'm really, really hungry. Or worry, I'm really worried about what I'm going to have for dinner next week. And so all three of these types of stress can't be differentiated and fire off that change. And so from our rational mind, we instantly become irrational. And this is where we start thinking food is fun, food is comfort, food is joy, or food is even the enemy or entertainment. And so this is where we need to get into the process of meditation, trusting yourself. It's very tricky.
Yeah, a number of years, well, probably 2 years ago, I did a psilocybin session. I've shared on this podcast about that. And one of my biggest lessons throughout it was a therapeutic setting, so with a psychotherapist. And throughout that, one of the things that sort of came up for me was that my body felt really uncomfortable. So like my thighs were hot. I wanted to stop what I was doing. I wanted to be out of the experience. And that was actually a really profound moment for me because I knew that it was trying to teach me that I needed to be okay in the uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And I mean, I could give the whole story of the rest of my life of why that's important, but I won't here. I have on other podcasts, folks. But yeah, it's very easy for me to pull out of conversation with someone because it's uncomfortable, not to say what I think and feel because it's uncomfortable, not
Mhm.
to speak my voice or have my opinion heard because it's uncomfortable, because I want to curate the emotions of everyone around me. So I shut down. So I'm in this session feeling uncomfortable and I want to quit. I want to pull the eye shades off. I want to get up. I want to leave. And I know that it's a lesson for me and I have to stay
Yeah.
in it. And I keep breathing and
Yes.
saying, this is my in breath. This is my out breath. I keep paying attention. I keep allowing my parts to rise up. Whatever parts are trying to want me to escape, I just calm them and say, you're welcome. It's okay. We can be here. We can be uncomfortable. This will pass. And so I really like what you're saying there, that there is this place we have to separate the physical from the emotional experience. And I think just so much of us has to tune into that emotional because for years we
Yes.
just push it aside, don't we?
Yeah, and I think, yeah, I mean, there's just so many things I want to say. Yes, and I can appreciate you so much for everything you just shared. We make all of our decisions from a place of trust or fear. And most of
Yeah.
us are fear-based, and most of us are, pessimistic. We think 60% of the time negatively on purpose to help us survive the moment so, we can be okay. And like, really, the one thing we need, every single one of us, 24 hours a day, is to know we're safe.
Hmm.
And like that is the answer is I am safe. And like we cannot predict what's going to happen in 1 second from now. And so learning how to say, okay, but in this moment I actually am, right? Learning like we don't wake up in the morning and think, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to pee 6 times today. And I wonder where those toilets are.
Yeah.
No, we trust that the bathrooms will be there when we need them. And we also know sometimes it's really uncomfortable. And
Hmm.
also, we totally are okay the second it happened and we almost forget that it did.
Yeah.
And so, what, like, for me, I remember this one time before the internet, before cell phones, I was on the phone with my mom again, or this time, and she said to me, I was trying to hang up with her. And I said, I have to go. Bloomingdale's is having a sale and I want to get this sweater. And she said, Kim, Bloomingdale's has a sale every single week. And I'm like, what are you saying to me? How do you know that? And
Because they have for years. Yeah.
and again, this is like going back 20 years ago. And so then I was like, could she be right? And then I had to sit back and just look and watch Bloomingdale's every single week. And she was right. And that sweater, actually, different sale, but same price every single week. And so what happened is I started saying to my clients, there is food on every corner.
Hmm.
We always have access to food. Why are we so worried that we're going to be hungry? And of course, there are people who are,
Yeah.
and there are different mindsets and different upbringings and all the things. But in the reality, in this exact moment, the person that I'm talking to probably has food in their purse, their pocketbook, their kitchen, or can go through a drive-through at any time. And yet we have fear
Hmm. Hmm.
that we won't have enough.
I had a client once that, yes, she was afraid to leave the house without having a full feeling because she's like, what if I don't get food? And of
Yeah.
course, we talked a lot about where that stemmed from in her upbringing. And yes, it was related to the scarcity. And so that carried into her adult brain. You talk about putting things on hold. So this sounds like a really great concept for us that's tangible, something we could say to ourselves in the moment. Could you explain that for us?
Yeah. So hunger, which is not painful or scary and is isolated to your stomach, is because the lining of our stomach is sensing through the hormone ghrelin that we're needing food. And our body thrives in consistency. So ideally, we want to be hungry every 3 to 4 hours to keep our blood sugars even. Okay. So ghrelin prompts your mind to start saying food is a good idea. And leptin is the hormone that tells your body that you're satisfied. But we actually don't know or don't have the delivery of the food we're eating into our stomach for 15 full minutes. We won't know. And so I use 6 rules to kind of coach my clients. And the first one is to eat when you're hungry, to take your normal portion, cut it in half, and wait 15 minutes. So it's confusing in the fact that I'm saying take your normal portion when many people have been in a diet mindset and they don't know their portion. And also go to restaurants and assume that the chef knows how much they need. And none of that is true, right? We need to show up in our bodies and understand that I may not be as hungry as I was yesterday or the person who's sitting across from me, and that my hunger is never consistent, right? And so by starting with your normal portion, what you normally would eat, and cutting it in half, then we get into this idea, and I'm getting to your point, that we need to smell our food and that we need to chew our food, right? We need to be in our bodies, and our bodies need this fuel. And digestion starts with our teeth. It actually starts with our saliva. And so, actually embracing the fact that if we think we love the food, then actually to be with the food. So now you're starting with half of your normal portion. A lot of fear comes up for a lot of people, like that may not be enough. What if I miss out on this deliciousness? I'm never going back to that restaurant in Italy. Like, this is so unfair. But again, loving yourself so completely and being full from just that sounds crazy, but truth. So, what ends up happening is you brought up body fat in the very beginning of this conversation. If you have a history of yo-yo dieting, then you've gained and lost muscle, water, and fat multiple times. And every time you gain it, you're mostly gaining it as fat, making you fatter than when you started. And that is slowing down your metabolism and also determining your appetite. And so let's say you have a high body fat, which I would consider over 24% if you're a woman and over 18% if you're a man. And if that's the case, you're not as hungry as you think. And so now I'm giving you this fail safe. I'm giving you this practice. You take your normal portion, you cut it in half. You smell your food, you chew your food, you engage with your food. We're rewarded from the anticipation that I get to eat it, but we need to change that into I'm enjoying what's in my mouth. Now, the other half is just right there. It's not going anywhere. No one's taking it from you. It's available for you at any time, but only when your stomach is telling you you've had enough, and you won't actually know if you need it for 15 full minutes. Now, many people eat quickly, and in that case, they end up eating to the point of fullness, and they don't know they're full for 15 or 16 minutes. I'm giving you that fail safe by asking you to start with half and eat slowly.
Yeah, that's a great first point. So cutting your meal in half, setting in half aside, and then it's right there. Just allowing yourself to say, you know what, you can have that anytime. I liked what you said too about being in Italy, because I think we do have that like with holidays where like we're never going to be able to have a cake again. My mom only makes this pie once a year at Christmas, so I got to have a good amount, even though I'm stuffed already. My sister actually has an amazing practice, and she'll go to a baby shower and be full, but take the cupcake home and put
Yeah.
it in her freezer. She'll literally eat half the cupcake, wrap it up, take it home, put it in her freezer. Her freezer is
Yes.
full of half bits and bops of everything. So
Yes.
Diana, if you're listening, I see you. But that's a great way to do it. She's did exactly what you said, is just save it for later, knowing that you have it.
She's
Okay,
connecting
so
to safety, just so we're clear. Like, that is safe. I am safe because I can have it later for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's right there.
yeah, I think that's really key as well, because that settles the soul, doesn't a little bit. It
Yeah.
settles the soul, it knows that we're not in danger. You could have it at any time.
Yes.
Okay, so I'd love to actually hear the rest of your points there. So that's number one of your 6 simple rules. What's the second one?
This one, I can't wait to hear what you think, is to eat what you love, but to make sure the food loves you back. And I'm just
Okay.
curious if you had any reaction to that.
Make sure the food loves you back. I think that feels inviting to me. It
Yeah.
feels comfy, cozy. It feels like, yes, love me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us what that means for you.
So it's really undoing like diet culture mentality. A lot of people think that they should eat certain foods or that something is healthy or unhealthy or good or bad. And what ends up happening is they end up eating the good food when they think they should, and then the bad food when they're not hungry for it. And it keeps us in the weight cycle. And so I like to really understand people's inflammatory shape and know if they're struggling with any digestive distress, which looks like headache, teary eyes, runny nose, clearing your throat, burping, bloating, nausea, gas, it's smelly or airy, stomach noise. These things are signs that your gut needs help. And this rule is really to kind of get in and really understand why you're staying in a relationship that's toxic when we have so many alternatives out there, number one, and then a way to heal your body so that way you can bring back the food and see if you actually do love this food. I use the example that all food is a banana. And so I like to explain to my clients that it's not you're not having a sweet treat or a dessert, but like what if we called anything after you would eat a banana? So imagine dinner instead of like chicken, potatoes, and broccoli and cheesecake, you're having a banana with a side of banana, and then afterward there's more banana. What ends up happening is nobody thinks about a banana like, oh my God, when am I going to have a banana again? Where's the next banana? And we start normalizing this food and we start recognizing, do I need more banana after I already had some banana?
Hmm.
And maybe I'll eat this banana first, or maybe I'll save it for tomorrow. So what happens is we start allowing ourselves to change and not restrict anymore.
hmm I think, because there is so much diversity in food, there are so many options. We feel
Yes.
like we need to try every one of them. Sometimes on the way home from a grocery store, I'm like, what did I buy? Oh, yeah, I've got to try a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And yeah, so I don't see them all as a banana. I see them all as different. So how do we shift that mindset?
Yeah, I would come back to, I'm going to say the rule again, to eating what you love when the food loves you back, only when you're hungry,
hmm
starting with half and waiting 15 minutes to see if you need more.
hmm
So it's very exciting to get something new and shiny, but that is just a way for you not to stay in your body. Let's do this quick little practice. Okay, so repeat after me.
Okay.
Where is my body?
Where is my body?
It's right here.
It's right here.
Where is my mind?
Where is my mind?
Okay, now go find yours actually. Where is yours?
It's present. It's right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's great because our mind could be in tomorrow. It could be in yesterday. It could be in fear. It could be in loneliness. Yeah. Good.
yeah. And so we really shouldn't even be eating until we know that our mind is here and that the reason we're thinking about food is because of our stomach. And so I would say like that would be like rule zero even, right? Because many people find themselves eating and they don't know how they got there. And I can give you an example. I remember years and years ago in my office had windows into the waiting room and I would be able to see when my clients would come and I would wait for them because I would not want to be running late. I would see 20 clients a day, 30-minute appointments, and like we didn't have time for any like lateness. And so it would create some anxiety, but I also thought if they were late, okay, this is an opportunity for me to eat because I don't know when I'll eat again.
Mm,
And then I remember I was at home way many years ago and I was in the living room and my phone rang. So I walked to my kitchen. I picked the phone up off the wall and it had like a 20-foot cord, if you remember those. And so I'm on the phone and I wish I hadn't answered it. If I had known who was on the phone, I wouldn't have answered it. But I did answer it. And then I found myself walking to the pantry. And I opened the pantry door and I'm standing there on the phone and I'm looking for something fun to do because I'm not having fun in this phone call. And then I recognized this is so weird that I'm in front of the pantry. I literally was in the living room 1 minute ago and I never was even thinking about food. And what I was able to connect was the way this person made me feel is the exact same way that I feel when my clients are late. And this is anxiety, not hunger. And I never really ate again for that feeling. But it's really important for us to be able to connect to our own bodies if we're present, which is why we need to practice being present.
hmm
Yeah.
All right. What is number three?
To eat without distraction, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So we eat for emotional reasons, we eat for cravings, we eat because the food is in front of us, but we should be only eating for physical hunger.
Yeah, we often don't. We just mindless. That's an old book, but Dr. Brian Wayne Sink wrote a book called Mindless Eating: Why We Eat More Than We Think. And so
Yeah.
much of it is buying the large size Costco bags or eating from a large bowl, just putting our hand in, not even being present at all, but just being very, very mindless.
Yeah.
So that getting in touch with the body, the mind, that's a great step to bring us into eating without distraction. What's number
Yeah.
four?
To get 10,000 steps every day. Yeah.
Okay, why is
So,
that important?
well, we know that the average American gets about, or anyone pretty much gets about 3,000 steps a day. And we know that we need 7,000 to reduce our risk of sudden death by 50% and so many other diseases. But in order to maintain our weight loss, we need to be fidgety and active. And so I call them 10,000 steps, but they're really 10,000 movements. We
Mm,
need to be active. So
mhm.
we're changing our body fat to low body fat, higher muscle. And it's not, exercise doesn't help you lose weight, but you can't maintain your weight without it. So a lot of people have struggled, even like you see people on a GLP-1 who've lost weight and they're not paying attention to the right numbers. And so they're not able to maintain it if they go off of it because they lost weight, but they weren't paying attention to the muscle mass and the body fat. And we really, really need to be active people in our lives.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I like that number as well. Um, and lots of us have trackers, so it is an easy thing that can make us feel like we have a home run under our belt as well, right? You can look
Yeah,
at it, it can increase our self-efficacy that change is possible when we track that. And
yeah.
what's number five?
Number five is to get 8 cups of water. And I feel like this is like our real superpower. Like we don't drink enough water or we're drinking, things that are caffeinated or smoothies or shake. And those are great. Those are fine. The problem is your body has to digest them. So they're not so easy, like just plain water. And when we don't drink enough water, we don't filter toxins the way that we need to on a regular basis. And it impacts our liver. And our liver's job is to metabolize fat. And so that means cholesterol, triglycerides, and body fat. And if you're not drinking enough water, the liver kind of jumps in and helps the kidneys, and nobody helps the liver. And so we end up storing fat, storing triglycerides, and storing cholesterol. So it's kind of like our secret power. Yeah.
And number six.
7 hours of sleep. And this
Mm.
became a conversation. I think I always had the conversation, but not till COVID did I recognize people stopped sleeping. And I'm like, oh my God, this is not okay. This is going to impact everything because when we don't sleep, we make different decisions and we wake up inflamed and less motivated to do all the things we need to do. So it's yeah, big important one.
Absolutely, our wellness impacts our decisions to eat healthy or around our food decisions, our exercise ability or motivation, right? Like all three of those things are so closely entwined. And sometimes we think, oh, I can't do this. I'm not doing very well. I'm failing. I'm letting myself down in my nutrition or in my fitness. But we haven't dialed in the wellness piece. We're not actually practicing the mindful attention. We're not practicing the breathing, the slowing, the questioning, the therapy,
Yeah.
the sleep, like all of that is just so crucial, but I think people just skip over it and don't think it's as important as it is.
Well, people find it hard, and our minds don't want us to do hard things, and so we throw temper tantrums and we don't do what we need to do. And that's actually why we fail, is we neglect to
Mm.
do the things and we think we already know, but we're not doing them. And there is a paradox where, people who aren't really doing it, but they're watching people do it and they think, wow, that's so hard. But the
Mm.
people who are doing it are like, I feel great.
Yeah.
They don't feel
And
like
that,
they're doing anything.
yeah.
They're having fun.
Yeah. They're having fun because they feel confident, they feel empowered, right? They feel healthier. Yeah. So what's the disconnect for some people? And how would you coach someone who, just is not motivated to change, but know they should change?
Yeah. I mean, yesterday I had a new client who's had just a whole, like, I don't even know how to say it, multiple surgeries and lost multiple organs. And actually, I looked at her and I thought, can we just like say goodbye to those organs? Have you spent any time thinking about all the organs that actually are not in your body anymore? And wow. And the reality is like you've been through it and she was saying, I don't love food. I'm afraid to eat it. And of course. Of
Mm-hmm.
course,
Mm-hmm.
you're adjusting to this new body, but it's connecting back to yourself with pure love. I mean, knowing how lovable you are and how important our bodies are. I mean, it's what we use to get through this life,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
How important is, like, you've worked with thousands of women. How important is this wellness and personal psychological component to lasting change? Like, you've seen people go through it. They've dieted on, off, yo-yo, but
Yeah.
how important is it that we peel back the layers of the onion and take a deeper look?
Yeah, I think it's the only way. I think that I would quantify that as willpower versus inner power. And people who have been on a diet in any way, they don't have willpower. I mean, or they have a limited willpower, I would say, right? Like I needed the purse or something to feel better. Something outside of myself was going to help me. And when we can direct the attention to inside and recognize, actually, I have everything I need to survive this single moment that I'm in, right?
Mm-hmm.
What happens is we start posturing ourselves, standing a little taller, start feeling like really more proud of ourselves in the moment we're in, right? I always think about a vegetarian in a steak restaurant. The the vegetarian doesn't like get like doesn't feel smaller when the waiter is like, you're not having steak, we're at a steak restaurant. The vegetarian's like, no, I know who I am. I
Mm-hmm.
know who I am, right? And not that I love to label different types of eating, but like the reality is know who you are and also that your story can evolve and change. Esther Perel says it best. She says that we can have up to 8 relationships in a lifetime and sometimes with the same person. And then I would add, and sometimes 8 with ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look back at your life right now and see the seasons that you've gone through yourself. I've definitely noticed that. And my work this last couple of years has been solely on self. And yeah, you see a lot of progress forward, but that has taken a lot of deep introspection as well, right? And
Ah,
time to look into Pandora's box.
yeah.
Um, Holiday season is coming. So, this is so often when people will throw the baby out with the bathwater, because I think a lot of what you've said already is that we don't want to miss out. We don't want to miss out. There's Halloween, and then we've got Thanksgiving and Christmas. And this is often the time that we see people in September, they're keen. They want to get back in it and get off the ice cream and the alcohol. But in the fall, we do have a lot of holidays coming up. What's your advice to those who want to be mindful moving into this next season of life?
Yeah, I would say that Buddha says it best. He says that life is suffering. And so
Life is suffering.
life is suffering. So
Mm,
I would look at yourself, not you, but like in general, and where you're actually suffering. Are you
mm,
suffering with the ice cream or without the ice cream? And I know that might feel very difficult, but either way, you've got to choose exactly how you want this to go. But you almost have to see it because what happens with people who want ice cream and they don't have it, they forgot they were thinking about it.
mm,
And so we need to get better at being able to observe our thoughts. And I think you've said it throughout this is like pay attention to what's going on, the inner dialogue in my body. And how important is this ice cream in this moment? Because we're narrow focused on it, we're narrow minded. And if I
mhm,
look up from the ice cream, you know what I see are people that I love and smells
mhm,
that are amazing. And the real entertainment and the real comfort and the real joy is all around me. And food should only have one important place in our life, right? To feed our bodies. And of course, there should be ice cream and there should be cake as long as it doesn't make you sick. But it
yeah.
shouldn't be every single day. And it shouldn't be something that makes us feel bad about ourselves. And if that's the case, take a step back and really recognize which part of suffering am I willing to be in a contract with.
I love this advice today. One thing that I wrote it down that I want to keep in my brain moving forward is to show up in my body and do that regular check in with myself on how I'm feeling internally. before I eat, during my meal, even, right? Setting my fork down, taking one breath, one bite, setting it down, checking in with ourselves.
Yeah.
A lot of great advice here today. So thank you so much, Kim, for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Where can people follow you? Because this is such awesome advice. I know you have a book out as well. So tell us about where they can follow you and your book.
Great. They can find me everywhere at Kim Shapira Method. So all my socials are the same. And my book is called This Is What You're Really Hungry For. And
Mm,
I hope that people know by the end of this conversation what people are really hungry for is peace. Peace around their
peace.
health. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being my guest today. Now, folks, you go show up in your bodies and move daily in your fitness, wellness, and nutrition. And we'll see you all in the next Move Daily Talks.